England invented modern football. It created the rules. It built some of the world's most famous clubs. It has the richest football league on the planet. It produces world-class players generation after generation. Yet, despite all of that, England has won just one major men's international trophy, the World Cup in 1966. Since then, decades of hope have turned into decades of heartbreak. Every tournament begins the same way. Fans believe this could finally be the year. The squad looks strong. Expectations rise. The media builds excitement. And then, somehow, something goes wrong. So why does England always seem to fall short? Is it bad luck? Bad timing? Or is there something deeper behind football's most famous curse? To understand England's struggles, we need to go back to 1966. Playing at home, England won the World Cup for the first and only time. It was the greatest moment in English football history. The nation celebrated, players became legends, and a belief was born. England expected to become a football powerhouse for generations to come. But that's not what happened. Instead, the years passed, then the decades, and the trophies never returned. What's strange is that England should have every advantage. The country has one of the biggest football cultures in the world. Stadiums are packed every weekend. Millions of people follow the sport. Young players have access to elite facilities and coaching. And then there's the Premier League. Today, it's the most watched football league on earth. The best players from around the globe come to England. The money is enormous. The infrastructure is world-class. Looking at all of this, you'd expect England to dominate international football. Yet tournament after tournament, they continue to disappoint.
Some of the heartbreaks have become legendary. In 1990, England reached the World Cup semifinals. Dreams of glory were alive. Then came a penalty shootout defeat against Germany. 6 years later, Euro 1996 arrived. England hosted the tournament. The nation was convinced football was finally coming home. Once again, England reached the semifinals. Once again, penalties ended the dream. Once again, Germany stood in the way. It felt cruel. But unfortunately for England fans, it was only the beginning. In 1998, England arrived at the World Cup with exciting young talent. Then, David Beckham was sent off against Argentina. England lost on penalties. In 2004, another talented generation failed to win a trophy. In 2006, a team filled with stars like Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, Rooney, and Terry crashed out on penalties again. On paper, these squads looked incredible. Many fans still believe England should have won at least one major tournament during that era. Instead, they became known as football's greatest underachievers. This brings us to one of the biggest reasons England's failures feel so painful: expectations. Few national teams face more pressure than England. Every major tournament becomes a national event. Newspapers discuss football every day. Television coverage is constant. Social media explodes with predictions. Players are expected to carry the hopes of an entire nation. Winning is celebrated. Losing becomes a national disappointment. That's an enormous burden to carry. Imagine being 20 years old and stepping onto a football pitch knowing millions of people expect you to end a trophy drought that has lasted decades. Every mistake becomes a headline. Every missed chance is replayed endlessly. Every defeat becomes part of football history. That kind of pressure affects players, whether they admit it or not.
And nowhere is that pressure more visible than in penalty shootouts. For years, penalties became England's nightmare. Again and again, major tournaments ended from 12 yards away. Germany, Argentina, Portugal, Italy. The list seemed endless. Fans began expecting disaster before the shootout even started. Players knew the history. The media reminded everyone of it constantly. The pressure grew heavier every year. It became more than a football challenge. It became a psychological battle. Eventually, England started improving. New coaching methods were introduced. Sports psychologists worked with players. Penalty preparation became more scientific. In 2018, England finally won a World Cup penalty shootout against Colombia. For a moment, it felt like the curse had been broken. The nation celebrated almost as much as if they had won the tournament itself. But while progress had been made, the biggest prize still remained out of reach. The modern England team has arguably been one of the strongest in decades. Players like Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, and Declan Rice have given England one of the most talented squads in international football. Results improved. England reached the semi-finals of the 2018 World Cup. They reached the final of Euro 2020. They reached another final at Euro 2024. Yet somehow, the trophy still slipped away. The Euro 2020 final was especially painful. Played at Wembley Stadium in London, England took an early lead against Italy. Fans could almost taste victory. After 55 years of waiting, football finally seemed ready to come home. But Italy fought back. The match went to penalties. And once again, England lost. Another generation experienced the same heartbreak their parents and grandparents had experienced before them.
So what's really happening? Some people blame tactics. Others blame pressure. Some point to bad luck. The truth is probably a combination of all three. International tournaments are incredibly difficult to win. A single mistake can end years of preparation. A single missed penalty can change history. Even the strongest teams often leave empty-handed. What's important to remember is that England isn't failing because it's a weak football nation. Quite the opposite. England consistently reaches the later stages of major tournaments. Many countries would love to have England's record. The frustration comes from the gap between expectations and results. England gets close enough to dream, but not close enough to win. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. England has the players, the fans, the money, the facilities, the history. Almost everything needed to succeed. Yet football remains a game where success is never guaranteed. Sometimes the difference between glory and heartbreak is a single moment. Will England win another major tournament someday? Almost certainly. The talent is there. The opportunities will come. But until that day arrives, the story continues. Every tournament brings new hope. Every summer brings new belief. And every generation of fans asks the same question. Could this finally be the year? For nearly 60 years, the answer has been no. But that is exactly why England remains one of football's most fascinating stories. The question isn't why England is bad at football. The question is why a nation that has everything needed to win keeps falling just short of greatness.